All right. Hello, everyone. This is Richard Williams with Idle Musings of a Nerd Mind. That's my techie and roommate now. And can everyone introduce yourselves? And yes, I have a cast on. All right.
What's up, everybody? I'm Brad Bogus. I am a previous co-host of Richard's on a different podcast from back in the day called Nerd AF. So, hi. You won't find me online. I don't exist. I literally have no social media. I take my moniker seriously. I am quite literally a Force ghost.
And that is true. That is very true. John, could you tell everyone about yourself?
For sure. I'm John Handem Piette, and I'm I guess I'm a regular. This is my is it my third time? And I
think I was counting Nerd AF too. So yes,
it's great to see Brad back. It's good to be back with you, Richard.
It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, man, it's good to be back in the Nerdverse.
Yay!
Camps.
Oh my goodness. So let's do a little bit of a catch up. John, if you could tell us what you've been doing. We know you did a documentary. Could you tell us what else you've been up to?
For sure. So as you just said, I had a documentary that just came out worldwide on Amazon Prime and Vimeo called Lightning in a Bottle, a Festival Story. But that's that did take up a lot of time right now, but that movie, as you guys know, I was talking about that when we were on the podcast years ago. So that's a project that I finished a long time ago, but it just came out. So recently, more recently, I'm working on another documentary that's like in the process of still filming and kind of transpiring. The story is still unfolding. Yeah, man, I'm just here in Brooklyn with my girlfriend and my dog and living the good New York life. And
Bean is Bean that's still the dog?
Bean, yep.
Bean,
yep.
That's a cute dog.
He is very cute. He actually has a big day coming up on Friday because he has a benign growth that we're gonna get removed.
Oh,
so he has a little surgery
Okay.
coming up, but he's gonna be fine. He's a true person.
Okay.
Bean.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I love that Bean got a credit in your documentary.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, man. He really held it down. He was in a lot of the footage, and
He was good.
He is. It's not his first time in front of the camera, so.
Oh, okay.
He got a camera kiss and everything. Like,
I know he did everything right, man. He knows what to do.
That is also Brad. Did you want to kind of let people who you know who you are, Jesus, and just I don't know, like how we know each other and stuff.
I'll catch some folks up. So I am an artist and I guess a marketer or whatever. That's what I do for a career, but that's not very interesting. I like punk rock. I like to fight the status quo. I'm very contrarian. But I'm also in this like weird crossover space where like punks and hippies kind of get along, which is just like, I don't know, like fuck this whole system. Let's all love each other. Let's embrace each other. Let's not fight. Right. Like violence is the voice of the system. And I'm not really into that. Right. So like, I'm a nerd, I guess. Always have been, maybe a little bit unconventional of one, but I have always been into horror movies and video games my whole life. So like Richard and I have a college link from back in the day. We both went to the same school, had so many friends that were the same people. Nice. Somehow we weren't like hanging out back in college, but eventually we came together because of the gravity around our social networks. And then we did a podcast together, Nerd AF, before this one, and talked all things nerd, and got to have John, thankfully, on quite a few times. Yes. I think the last time we talked with John that I was involved with, if it wasn't 2020, it would have been just like barely 2021 maybe. So it's been, you know, a good 4, maybe even 5 years.
Yeah.
And
my
and
God.
in that time I've been raising a little badass, and he's a skater. He tells me he loves punk rock all the time. It like really warms my heart. It's like the greatest thing in the world. And he's just this cool little kid. So I've been living the dad life. It has drastically reduced my ability to engage with good quality content.
Yeah.
But you know, it's worth it. It's a good substitute.
Awesome.
I heard it, but you still get to see your horror movies though, right?
Well, every Saturday. So I have a nephew who moved to Denver. And every Saturday we have him over for dinner and we watch a classic horror film. We've been watching horror films from the 20s on up till the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while we throw in a new one. So like sometimes I get to see something new and current, but a lot of times I'm just like kind of like going back in through some of the old shit.
Yeah.
Some stuff I've never seen before. Some stuff that was classic for me as a kid. We just watched Evil Dead 2 last Saturday. Right. And it's so amazing to kind of like look back at some of this content. Like,
yeah,
Sam Raimi developed camera techniques that are still so potent today and relevant today. Like that sort of low steady cam moving through the forest, things like hitting the camera lens, going through doorways, like just real tight, fast follow, you know, down on the heels of the victim kind of like camera work that is so gripping, and still to this day is just like we watch this 1987 film and we're like, dude, that is like a really cool ass shot. I don't know how they did that still.
Yeah, he's a pioneer. Sam Raimi's a pioneer, man, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. Now he's a Marvel person. Well, kind of a Marvel for. Well, no, he is, because he did Spider-Man, and then he did Doctor Strange. A lot of people don't like that Doctor Strange.
I like it.
I like it. You know, I don't like that they made Wanda a bad guy, because what's the point of WandaVision? God, she's trying to be good. She's trying to be good. Anyway,
the duality, right?
Yeah.
Would you not? There is no try, Richard.
There is no try. Well, she's trying. So you love how I keep doing that. It's like there is no try. I'm like, but she's trying. She's totally doing it. Let's see. I guess let's catch y'all up on what I've been doing. I was at CCD. I was at Community College of Denver, and I finally got to transfer to Metropolitan State University of Denver. Wow, 2 different creatures. In a good way, in a really good way, because it just seems like at Metropolitan, it's way professional. And the professors are like, you know what you need to do it. You know, because there's a couple of 20-somethings. They're like, but I don't know if I could get it done tomorrow. And then, like, all the older students like me, we all just kind of look at them, and they're just like, well, I can't. So I'm like, you're going to figure it out. Anyway, doing that, looking for an internship this summer at one of the mental health clinics. And what else? I moved. I broke my freaking arm. Not great. My dad kind of giggled. I don't know what that means.
Have you broken anything before, or is this a first?
No, this is my first time ever breaking anything.
Wow.
So I think a lot of days without accidents posted on the wall.
Yeah, well,
you have, right, Brad, as a skater?
Well, I have broken bones, but actually not from skating. Somehow. I got into a car wreck in 1997 that broke 5 of my ribs on my right rib cage and fractured the right side of my pelvis 9 times. So that's oddly the only time I've ever broken anything. And I've gotten real damn close.
And there's not much you can do about broken ribs, right? Like you have to just
broken hip. You just deal.
Yeah.
Pretty tough.
Yeah. Wow. You stay still. still as you
Yeah,
can.
try not to sneeze. You definitely try not to sneeze.
Oh my
Shit is-
god!
You were a kid, so in those days, like everything is pretty malleable, right? Like you heal up.
Yeah. I mean, I was 17 at the time. I recovered way faster than anyone expected, and the doctor said, you'll have a full recovery. Like these injuries aren't going to be sustained. You're not going to have lasting hip problems or rib problems or whatever.
Nice.
And like that's for the most part very true. Although like I do rock climb, and every once in a while I get into a position with my like hip in a weird place, and then I feel a little like pinch. That I'm like, full recovery? I don't know.
Just a reminder. It's just a reminder.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. It's a good reminder because I'm not trying to like risk falling on it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, hey, don't do too much.
Exactly. Well, I'm gonna watch my step next time. That was like just dumb, and I think my dad kind of laughed because he's like, "Wait a minute, didn't you dance in shows and weren't you at theme parks doing like high kicks and all of this?" And he goes, "And you fell in the stairwell." And I'm just like, you're old and I can push you, right?
That's where accidents actually happen the most, right? It's those places where we're the most familiar and we're not like as tuned in as we should be.
That's
maybe
right.
because we're so
taking shit
comfortable
for
there,
granted.
and then shit happens,
Yeah. I was trying to carry too much. It was on me. The elevator was broken. Usually I'm like putting stuff down. Now that I have a place that has an elevator.
Yeah, my last injury, I sprained my ankle pretty bad about a year and a half ago, and it was because my dog was getting the zoomies, and I was walking on a trail, like a rough trail that had like little potholes in it and stuff.
Oh yeah,
right.
And so I stepped in a little weird pothole while my dog was having the zoomies while I'm texting.
No.
So it's always when you're doing too much that those things happen, right?
Yeah, but it's all good. This will be gone in no time. I get it checked out next week to see if everything's healing. They said it was a clean break. And actually, I'll say this and I'll shut up about it, that my doctor originally thought it was nerve damage. She was just like, oh, it's nerve damage. It's going to heal. But just in case, let's go ahead and, just do it and take an x-ray. And I was walking out the door, and she's like, your arm is broken. So she's like, how have you been sleeping and stuff? I'm like, I've been eating like almost a bottle of aspirin. It seems like almost every day. And she's like, that would do it. So let's get a cast on you and let's get you the right medication. So, and
your kidneys are like,
right. I was like freaking out. I'm like, how can it be broken? And she's like,
by the way, on a total tangent, Nerve Damage is a really great punk rock band name. I think I'm going to scribble that one down.
Okay.
That is a good one.
So is broken femur. I'm just saying that could be fun.
Broken femur is a really good one. That's brilliant.
All right. Let me
more metal, but still.
Yeah, that's metal.
I like it. But so let me shut up about John. Please tell us about your documentary, please.
Yeah, so it's this journey that I've been on, as you guys know, for years. Yes. Started back in 2016 when a group of my friends who consistently were going to Lightning in a Bottle Festival in Northern California. Yeah. They convinced me one year to go. Every year they would be like, hey, we're getting ready to, go to LIB. And I was always reticent. And then this one year it kind of worked out. And so I went and I brought my camera gear with me because in those days, that's kind of what I was doing. I was like experimenting with being on certain substances and filming at the same time. It was like a particular period of my artistic growth where I was experimenting, doing the two at the same time. And I was making really interesting, like short experimental pieces. And I thought, let me just bring my camera to LIB and film, not even thinking I was going to make a movie or anything. I was just with a bunch of my friends who I loved, and they're a cool group of people. They're funny. So I thought I got to capture this, And so I did, and then that footage just kind of sat around for 4 years.
Wow.
And then I moved to New York, as you guys know. And then once the pandemic hit, I was working on like an experimental version of just the footage that I'd captured to just share with my friends. But when the pandemic hit, I thought, I could add another element to this, because I was always wanting to add some interview type element where I have my friends walk me through their experience of the festival. But since the pandemic happened, I knew everybody would be available because we were all sitting around at home.
Right.
And that contrast between being able to go to festivals and not being able to go anywhere because everything was canceled that year in 2020. So that's how the story sort of came together. And then it gave me something to work on during the pandemic. And then, that was right around the time I really got to know you guys and get on the podcast, and everything kind of blew up with America Endgame and everything. So this is what I was really working on at that time. And then we premiered at a couple film festivals in 2022 is when we premiered in LA, and we had a festival here in New York, and we won a bunch of awards. And then, as these things do with indie film, it's tough, to get a streaming deal or to get any kind of distribution deal. But we found a partner, a sales partner, and they were plugging away, going to like Cannes movie market and American film market. And they finally, over the last year, they were getting a lot of traction. And then they dropped the news on us that it was going to be coming out originally it was supposed to come out in September, but I actually didn't have my ducks in a row yet, because I had to kind of rework the film a little bit, not rework it, but I had to change out some of the songs from the artists that were playing at the festival, because the rights to those songs for streaming would have been astronomical. We got the rights to play those songs at the festival, but for the streaming release, I had to kind of re-engineer those scenes with other music. And I think it worked out well. Like, obviously we have our nostalgic factor for the ones that were there, for the music that we are connected to, our memories and stuff. But for everybody else, they don't know any better, So
no, I actually had that thought when I was watching it, because I saw some of those like dancing scenes out at the stages, and my first thought, because I have a little bit of a background in film. I didn't really talk about that on my intro for some reason, but it would have been germane because it's very relevant. But I was thinking about rights acquisition, and I was like, wow, did he have to go to all the artists on this to get their rights from it? And I had that thought because you did such a good job mixing the sound into the scene to such a degree that it felt live, like it felt recorded, or at the very least, it felt like the exact song that was playing at that time. Like it was in sync with the people moving. Like you did some really good work there.
Great. I appreciate that, man. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, like, I did go through that. We went through that process. Me, my producing partner, Brad, and our music supervisor, Jonathan Baker. He had a Herculean task, because he does like music supervising for Netflix shows and all kinds of stuff. And he was like, guys, this is like, I've never seen a movie try to clear this many songs. I'll try my best. And let me tell you guys, I do not recommend it, because it is such a crazy process, because every song has, you don't know who owns the rights to the song. Multiple people can own the rights. The people who wrote the song, if it's two people who wrote the song or collaborated on the song, they own 50% or 25%. The studio, the label owns part of it. So you have to talk to everybody and make sure they each sign off. So that process, we were doing that, like, we had like a couple of months before the premiere to do that process. But here's the thing, though, like, going back, I think that I'm glad that we did it that way, even though it was a nightmare. Because like you said, I had the actual music that was playing there, and I wanted it to be legit and really feel like you were there. And so if we didn't go through that process and I was just picking songs from the beginning, it might not have felt that organic, because I was actually timing the music changes and everything to the exact same way that it was in the original cut. So I think that original cut with the original music informed this new version. So it should
give you sort of a template to follow, right?
Exactly. So it's still following that organic feel, like you're at the concert and you're hearing the DJs changing the music, and so I think it helps it feel a little more visceral and real. So I'm glad you picked up on that.
I mean, oh, sorry, Richard, go ahead.
No, go.
I was gonna say, like, I'm not like a festival guy. Like, I've never been to Burning Man or Coachella or Lib, any of these, but I like have been to some stuff similar-ish, and like the documentary really did make me feel like I attended this festival with you, like,
Awesome.
and your friends. You know what I mean? Like, there's a real interesting way that you laid it out, like. There's stuff that is like big, informative, and then there's minutia that you include. Like there's a point where someone's just talking about how amazing it is just walking through the gate to get your wristband, and so you just take people through that experience, and there's no real like thing happening other than you're going through the gate, you're seeing the different people doing different things, just like dancing as they're walking, some stuff over here. Like there was just these little elements to it that added all this like texture that made me feel like I had attended in a small degree, without feeling the heat or the dehydration or the lack of sleep or the drugs, but
Right.
and so on and so on.
It's the safe way to festival, right? It's festival from home. Thanks, man. That means a lot. That's what we were hoping to evoke, is that you could really feel like you're going to this festival and experiencing it, and what you just said, actually, one of the founders of Lightning in a Bottle, his name is D.D. Fleming, and him and his brother and some of his buddies created Lightning in a Bottle, and he came to the premiere. And
cool.
Yeah, we sent him an invite. We comped his tickets, and we were like, "Come if you can make it. We know you're busy, And he, after the film played, he's had really kind things to say, and he was like, this festival, I've never felt like I could attend my own festival until I watched your film. So he basically said he felt like he could attend his own festival through the film, which was the highest praise I could have hoped for from him. Just helping him experience his own festival without the stresses of like, is the sound working on stage 3? Like all the stuff you're probably worried about when you're running a festival. So that meant a lot, and we're actually still in contact with Dee. Me, Brad, and I, we stay in touch with him, and we let him know the movie came out, so he's going to share it with the crew there. So our dream would really be to do like an outdoor screening of it the day before the festival on the campgrounds. I think lit.
I think that would be absolutely fabulous. The one thing I did want to just tack on to the music part of it is, I know I'm about to start doing, as soon as I can figure it all out, film reactions. Oh my God. We've been going into it and like just music, and you can only do like 10 minutes from the film, but the music is the biggest thing. And oh my God. And I don't know how some of these YouTubers get away with it, because they're like playing the whole soundtrack.
They just haven't gotten the C&D yet. That's all.
Right.
I mean, if you pay attention to the news headlines, one of the biggest news headlines in like music rights happening right now is the company Crumble is getting sued to the teeth by a few artists because of some shit they did on TikTok. Right. Damn. So like advertising their brand using music on TikTok, which is like rote and repeat. Like everybody does that because it's like that's what you're supposed to do, or that's how they want you to use the platform, or whatever the fuck. But yeah, if you're not careful with which line you're crossing there, they can sue the living shit out of you. And that's what's happening to Crumble right now.
Yeah, it's dicey. That, I guess that's why, because I've started to watch a lot of those reaction videos too. And I guess that's why they show like a piece of the movie, then they take it off, or they show at least a frame without sound to see where they're at in the movie. But yeah, that content's good. Like I've been watching a lot of the Gladiator and Matrix ones just because it's nice to see the kids and some of the classics that informed me. So
yeah. One thing I did want to say, and it meant a lot to me that you put this in the film. And I know some of your friends talked about it, that it's sometimes okay not to feel okay. Yeah. And it's okay to be alone. sometimes, and take some me time at these festivals.
Yeah.
I know when I've gone, primarily for me, it's ACL. But, and I was lucky enough to live like up the street. I could ride my bike down there and what have you. But, oh my God, you will get this group of people. And when I was younger, everybody was just like, oh my God, we have to stick together. We have to be together always, always, always. And
that's right.
The older you get, you're like, you know what? I'm going over to the DJ tent that they have rotating DJs. So why don't you go see Shania Twain or whoever the fuck you want? So
that's hilarious. Yeah. That's awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's a part in the movie, and that's one of the chapters of the movie is going off on your own, and I think one of my girlfriend's favorite characters in the movie is the totem, that bamboo stick with
the
munchies bag. And that thing, like, all of us sort of clung to that thing, because if you did get separated and you didn't really know where anybody was, you could just kind of look around and go to the stage that you thought we were at. And if you saw that totem, you were good to go. But it is important to, I think, go off on your own and figure out what works for you, even if you come with a group and you're safe with your group. But if you trust the setting that you're in, I think it is important to go off on your own and kind of see what floats your boat and what different weird things you can get into on your own, because I think these things are about self-discovery, and about especially when you're on a substance, whatever it is, sometimes the substance is just pure sun on you and exhaustion, but you're in a state when you're at these places. And so I think when you're on your own, it's a really good time to kind of assess your life, because you're so removed from your daily routine that it does give you an opportunity to be like, am I happy with the way things are going? Are there things I could change in my life? Are there things I need to say that I'm not saying or doing? And so I think the festival setting is a very interesting place to parse those feelings, And the thing is like, we were young. So, obviously when I did the interviews, it was 4 years removed from the festival. So a lot of us matured in that time beyond what we were at the festival. And so I think some of the people in the film mentioned that, like, we didn't actually talk to each other about our issues and what was bothering us. At the festival, we were trying to keep it light and like avoid that stuff and just be in a happy, joyful, loving state. But it was important to me during the interviews to ask them, well, what's going on that's wrong, or what has harmed you or hurt you, or what challenge are you dealing with? So that was really important for me on the follow-up, to really dive deep into what people were challenged with, especially during COVID. And there were a lot of challenges, there were a lot of things that were rough. And so hopefully, for our friends, it's important to remind ourselves, like, it's hard to bring up those things that are challenging us.
It is.
Sometimes it is important to be like, how are you doing? But really, how are you doing? Like a real check-in. And I think that's important to do with friends,
That's what one of the, I think, things that made this not feel just like we were out in the desert having a great time partying kind of documentary. There was such vulnerability and authenticity to that like, sort of public face that everyone was wearing, when every single one of the characters, every single one of your friends was was really struggling with something very specific. Some of it overlapped, some of it didn't. Some of it was very everyone was having their own issues, including yourself, right? Like this sort of confusion with the relationship and like these periods of transition everybody seemed to be in. Like there's this interesting thing, and maybe this is something that like millennials and Gen Z will relate to more than like the Gen Xers have. But there's this like if you look at like when someone's considered an adult from history, like that goalpost has moved further and further and further out into traditional adulthood, depending on which lens you're looking at it from, right? And so like some of us, like I think one of the people in the documentary even said, like, I was there and I was having this great time and it was partying and it was also amazing to connect with people, but there was like such naivety about it, right? Like I was so, I don't know, like convincing myself of something.
Yeah.
And it seemed like there was some level of that happening with every single person there that wasn't addressed, but was addressed in the interviews afterwards, which was such a like important way to contextualize it. Like it wasn't just glorifying the memory of the festival, like, oh my God, that was the most formative thing ever. It was also like, maybe I wasn't making good decisions with my life. And maybe like the escapism I was trying to engage in was the wrong move, right? Like going to the festival to escape wasn't necessarily a good thing for me, even though I would never change it, right? Like
exactly
that kind of recontextualizing of a memory is a very few people do that work, right? So like being able to have that conversation with so many people is special.
Yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up because that was something that kind of surprised me, to be honest with you. These conversations were very open and vulnerable, and I didn't want to force anybody to talk about anything they didn't want to talk about or do anything they didn't want to do. So I was just kind of like, I'm going to have these conversations and they're going to go where they're going to go. And that's going to inform what this narrative is for this film. And everybody really opened up about what their issues were, even things that I didn't realize they were dealing with at the festival itself. And I think even some people were like, hey, like, I don't know if we should do this call because, I didn't have that great of a time there. And I was like, but honestly, that lit me up even more because you guys know, I mean, as filmmakers, it's like, it can't all just be fun and games. Any narrative has to have conflict. So this is sort
humanity is.
Right. That's being human. That's being alive. And that's what a story is. And that's what a life is. And so that's what I was actually really interested in. I mean, everybody, I was really blown away by how open everybody was about what they were going through. And I think that just makes it relatable, and also the time aspect of it is I can't really overstate how important it was to let that much time go by. Because originally my plan was after I got home from the festival, I was asking everyone to send me videos recapping how their experience was. And I got like 3 people like to send me something and they talked for like 15 minutes or, 10, 15 minutes about how their experience was. It was just this quick, superficial, like it was fun and this and that. And I discovered this. And this set was really good. But I think that elapsed time and that maturity that kind of set in allowed them to really process it and be like, you know what? I thought I was having more fun than I really was. Because some of it, like the act of going out into the desert to party, that in and of itself is like a call for help, I think some people didn't realize that until years later. So that time that elapsed was actually really important to let go by for people to have the right perspective on it.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I'm really happy that amount of time went by and some of the classes that I'm taking right now, I want them to see your documentary. This week is my last round of classes and what have you, but I told them you were going to be on my show and what have you, and they're like, "Oh my God, I want to hear about it." I'm like, "Okay, well, you got to look at my stuff too." But that impressed me so much. The time link between it and how vulnerable everyone was and just honest. People were just being completely honest because this is something I have to deal with clients and stuff like that when I have to do it, because people will sit there and I'll tell you what the first 2 or 3 sessions, they're like, everything is great. Oh my God, did you see my shorts? How about my shoes? And I'm like, oh, okay, so what else is going on? Seriously. What?
Right. Quit bullshitting me.
Yep.
Right. It's like, that's cute, but let's keep going, and let's see what's going on. And I was just impressed. It just seemed like you weren't pushing. it didn't seem like you were pushing anybody. I know you weren't,
No,
but
yeah,
it just came forward, and it was
You can't
just
push a dude to talk about having an ass problem like too
yeah.
fun, dude. Like I was just like, whoa, bro, you're throwing it out there.
I know. And the thing, the thing is too, and this is why like I'm gonna be forever indebted to all my friends who took part in this, because really it was basically everybody. There were like 2 or 3 that didn't want to be involved for their own reasons. One of them had a drinking problem and didn't even want to think about that time of his life, you know.
yeah.
And so, you know, though I was very respectful for, you know, to those people, but really, I think it's a reflection of the friendship that we formed, you know. I think that they felt comfortable enough to really open up and just have a conversation, you know. And I do think that like there were things that we were shy about putting out there. And I think all of us sort of recognize like everybody is going through these same things. And whether it's being shy about letting your family know that you've taken these substances, you know, but some of those substances, you know, we call them drugs, but I don't like really using that word anymore because it's such a loaded word. But these substances are so different from each other. They do such different things to you, unless you're Captain Planeting, which I'll do later. But people were shy about letting their parents know, yeah, I did MDMA or I did mushrooms, you know, and but the thing is I think this, to me, I think it was important for people to see like, hey, we're all talking about it. It did these specific things for us that helped us access parts of ourselves that we couldn't express otherwise, right? And I think that that's important to get out there, no matter how shy we are about it. I think that more people seeing that these are ways that people are dealing with their self-discovery, their mental health, and everything that they're going through. When you're doing it with your friends, and you know that they say setting whenever you're going into a psychedelic experience, and basically what that means is you want to make sure that you're in the right headspace, mindset, that you're in the right place, whether that's nature, somewhere that makes you feel connected and joyful just automatically, and being with friends, people who, if you're having a difficult time, because you know you can slip into some rabbit holes that are darker and more scary, and so it's good to have a friend there to be like, hey man, everything's okay, like let's go focus on that tree over there, or let's go let's go change the vibe a little bit, like let's go to a different stage. It's good to have people around you who are on their own, you know, journey, but they can sort of chaperone you through. And so there's a conscious, safe way to do this stuff. And I think that, alongside opening up about what you're actually dealing with in your life, is the only way to grow.
That's right. That's right. We're in a different, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but like, we're like in a different paradigm now when it comes to talking about these plant medicines, you know, and like, I've seen such a radical shift even in the way my family talks about it, and the neighborhoods they live in, right? So like I have a lot of family who lives in the middle of red Texas, and in a suburban neighborhood where the last place you would expect people to be using mushrooms or other psychedelic substances to like really fundamentally try to grow, right? And people who have used these things as much as, you know, at least you and I have, John, we know that like there's something deeper happening. This is not escapism from numbing your feelings or numbing your pain. This isn't like, you know, the same sort of drug behavior people think when they hear that term. They think of people who are addicted to cocaine or heroin or, you know, are extremely bad drinkers. And those people exist, and you know, I'm not trying to drug shame by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a whole class of plant medicines, from cannabis to mushrooms to DMT to LSD to MDMA. Some of these things have been synthesized from nature, but regardless, they don't allow us to escape from what we're dealing with. They force us to confront them. And in this way, we're dealing with a totally different connectivity to the substance, to ourselves. We're expanding different parts of our body, and then like fundamentally how it works in our brain. Like I've read Paul Stamets and gotten real into learning about like the default mode network and how our brains are sort of like, the best way I've heard this is like, it's like a snowy hill that people go sledding on, right? Every time we have a thought and then like ascribe an emotion to it or an action to it, it becomes a sled that goes down that hill and like carves a little rut into the hill. And like, the more you keep doing those things, the more packed down that snow gets. And it becomes easier and easier and easier to sled down that well-trodden path, right? And then you take, and there's a lot of paths, right? Because our brains are very complex, but you take psychedelics, you take these hallucinogenic plant medicines, even cannabis to some extent, you're sort of like freshly laying snow on top of that hill. And now you can recarve those paths, which is a like really simple way of saying it allows us to like rewire the way our brains think and process and feel and deal with emotions and deal with experiences and deal with relationships. And there's something so more fundamental to how we connect as humans and have connected over hundreds of thousands of years with these plant medicines as humans. Yeah. And then if you like really want to blow it up and get real woo woo about it, like if you look at the like the most expanded view of the deep fields of space, like when you see beyond galaxies and you're looking at the actual like webs and clusters of the filaments of the galaxy of the universe, the way that they connect looks extremely similar to the way that mushroom and mycology grows in petri dishes. It looks very similar to the way our brains form neural connections when we map neurons. Like the way neurons look, the way fungus looks in a petri dish, and the way the universe looks is almost identical. What the fuck does that mean? Yeah. Right? So like these aren't drugs.
Yeah.
these are something fundamentally more human.
That's so true, man. I love the analogy you used there of the snow on the hill and the sled paths. But yeah, I mean, I've had some pretty deep meet my maker type trips, and I always felt like I could see the universe in a sense, you know, and see its sort of energetic makeup. And everything is probably, everything that exists in the universe is probably exists on some micro level in our daily lives here. And so, yeah, we have access to those things. We have access to that network, right?
Yeah.
And the analogy I like to use is, and it's not even an analogy, but I think it's mentioned in the film that something that we're after at these festivals too is getting back in touch with our childlike wonder.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think childlike wonder is an important thing to maintain within ourselves, which is honestly why I was so curious about you raising your son, who's now 4 years old. I'm really curious about that. I'm not a dad yet. Richard, you're not a dad that I don't know of, but like, I imagine that that's probably something parents go through when they're raising their kids too. But I think kids awaken that part of us, but psychedelics absolutely get us back to that childlike wonder because they open all of those neural pathways, right? And a child's brain, that's what a child's brain looks like. Like you said, that snowy hill.
Fresh snow,
There's fresh snow. You can go anywhere you want to go. And kids, that's how their brains are. And for us, we're so set in our ways and our routines and our jobs and our ideas about ourselves that we form based on feedback from society. A lot of it can be negative, you know, and so we form negative representations of how we feel about ourselves based on feedback from society. And you can wipe those things away and get back to that childlike brain that's just like trying to, you know, figure out who you are and where you want to go, and everything is an option, you know. And I think that that's important to access because, like we're saying, though, you know, life is going to throw us curveballs, and life is going to have peaks and valleys. And when you're in those valleys, I think it's important to go deep like that and remind ourselves like what's possible for us, you know.
I think a lot of people lie about parenting, so I'm going to give you some real, right? Because what you just said was so foundational to an experience I've had recently. So I think there's a ton of pressure to the idea that my kid has fresh snow, right? Like, because I know now anything I do is carving a path for him too, right? Like if I yell because I'm frustrated or impatient or mad, I'm teaching him to yell when he feels frustrated, impatient, or mad. And like sometimes it just happens and you're like, fuck, you know what I mean? I can't take it back, right? Like I've already now imprinted him a little bit with that.
Yeah.
And just having him and raising him doesn't bring me back to childlike wonder, because I'm so wrapped up in my adult shit, work and bills and my fucking phone. Like I've really been in a battle with my phone. I've reduced my phone time by half week over week, because I've decided to disengage from certain things that I've always considered fundamental in my connectivity or whatever. But what I'm realizing is that it's all taking away my presence with him. And when I am fully present, I tap into that. Like he comes up with the most imaginative little names for his like toys and characters and imaginary friends. And like, there's always so much creation and imagination happening with him that I am not always on the same level with him on. Yeah. And so I find myself often short, often impatient, often just like moving him from one thing to the next, thinking about progress and like not really thinking about like, hey, you're an artist, asshole. Why don't you like paint a picture with your kid or pull out your instrument and play with them? You know what I mean? Like I've got so many ways to engage with them on the level that I don't. But what I have found, and also it's gotten worse because like I lost my father at the end of January. So like I've also had this like weight of grief happening at the same time that keeps me from just being present and has made me pretty short and like just kind of in a bad mood a lot of the times. Yeah. And so I connected with a friend of mine who grows really clean mushrooms here in Colorado, and I bought some, not with the intention to go on some like heavy heroic dose journey like I've done in the past, but rather just to like take little bits of the medicine as I go along at the end of the week to kind of help like wash all this shit off of me real quick. You know what I mean?
I microdose all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I've never been like a proponent of microdosing. Like I've seen studies enough that say that it doesn't really do anything. And you know what? I don't care if it's placebo or not. I think it does actually do something. But the point is that like when I've taken, you know, 0.25 grams or even 0.15 grams of mushrooms, and they're really potent, the ones I got, so they're really good. But you take a little tiny bit, and all of a sudden, I'm like, my wife told me, like, I'm just more connected with Miles in those moments, and she sees me brighten up. She sees me not carry as much weight on my shoulders, you know, not as trodden down, not as distracted.
That's great to hear.
That's fucking medicine, man. Right? Like that's like fundamentally improving my relationship with my child and my wife. Yeah. And that's the value that these substances can bring us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's why I've been such a huge fan of using psychedelics for so long.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm sorry to hear about your father. That's really sad. I think that's important to share, because I have a lot of friends who are parents now and are becoming parents, and they don't share. I can tell they're tired, you know, but that's about it. You know, they don't really open up to me about the struggles necessarily. And I think it's important for most adults who are parents to hear that specifically, because I think everybody needs to remember, even if they're raising their own little child, they're their own human too, and they need to take care of that inner child that they have. And I think a lot of parents, that from what I've seen, forget about themselves and just think it's all about the kid. But what the kid wants is for the parent to be their happiest, most functional version of themselves, right?
So true.
It's important for parents to take heed and like seek those things that are going to help them connect deeper to themselves, so they can be their best for their families. Yeah.
Miles will tell me, like, when I'm upset or whatever, he'll say, "Daddy, will you please smile?" Like, or like, why is your forehead so wrinkly? Oh, can you make your forehead not so wrinkly? It really disturbs him, and he's so saddened by my lack of joy in that moment, you know. And like sometimes it like really will just like. I've caught myself at times when I've been like too short or like, you know, maybe snippy at him or whatever. And he'll say, "Daddy, it feels like you don't really like me very much." I'm just like, I love you so much.
You know? But that's the thing that's beautiful about kids, right? Is that they can only be honest, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we all were that open and honest? Like, imagine your friends at the festival. If all of you could have shared that open and honestly what you're dealing with,
how we were really feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny you say that because, like, you know, in hindsight, after doing the interviews, there's a part of me that's like, man, why didn't we do like a sharing circle and just talk about what we were going through, you know? But like
process, right?
Yeah, we weren't at that point in our life, and that's maybe not what the vibe was at that point. But like now, when I look at the footage, I'm honestly pretty struck by how many kids were there and how many parents brought their babies. And
I know,
you know, and there's a point in the movie where a couple of them talk about like, hey, one day we're going to bring our kids here. So who knows? Maybe you can bring your kid to a festival one day.
I was laughing a bit about that section. It's so funny the way you talk about what you're going to do with kids before you have them. And then the way the reality fucking hits you in the head like a brick. And you're like trying to just scrape a movie out of like a, you know, 6-month period. Like, can I just get out once to go see a fucking movie? I don't care what it is. I literally don't.
That's hilarious.
Oh my God.
Not to say that people don't pull it off. So, all right. So, like, I think I have used likely every substance that makes up the Thanos glove of your Captain Planet experience, I'm sure. But I have never done any of them together. I have never Jedi flipped. I've never candy flipped. I've never flipped anything. I've done DMT by itself. I've done LSD by itself, mushrooms by itself, MDMA, salvia, cannabis, right? Like, but never. Yeah. Well, I always mix weed with all the hallucinogenics.
Exactly.
Like, never
That's a given.
Right, exactly. But I've never done any of the psychedelics together, right? So I'm curious if you're willing to talk about it.
Oh, for sure.
What's the Captain Planet?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So that's really, you know, it's funny you bring that up because like this movie, you know, we get into the substances and we talk about them. We talk about what they do for us. We talk about the power that they each have and the unique qualities that they each have. But of course, when you're out there all day, you're going to mix some, you know? And so there's certain terms and names for particular mixes that work well together. Because some things you don't want to mix, obviously, right? I've mixed the wrong things and it hasn't ended well. You know what I mean? So you have to be careful. But so Jedi Flip, which you just mentioned, is mushrooms, acid, and Molly mixed together. Which I've never done that particular mix, but I made up my own one. So Captain Planet I kind of came up with that because
that's right. It's trademark John Piette.
I should trademark it, but I don't know. I can't trademark Captain Planet, obviously, but like
definitely get sued.
For our generation, we still know what Captain Planet is. I don't know if these kids know what Captain Planet is, but so I called it Captain Planet because it was 5 substances that I was on. And so like you said, weed is just like a general part of my routine. So like any moment of any part of the festival, I was probably high on cannabis. But we never even talk about cannabis in the movie. It's just kind of around. It's ever present. Yeah. So cannabis was the first one. And then mushrooms was a daily occurrence. The thing about mushrooms is that it's less potent the next day. So you have to pick your day when you want to do one, you know, over another thing. So mushrooms was the next one. And then I took a half tab of acid. And then the next one was like while I was on the festival grounds, I bumped into my best friend Elam, who's in the film. And he was on, there's a scene where, remember when there's that weird beatboxing scene and he's sitting on that couch
in the TV
beatboxing. Yeah. So there were this couple sitting next to us, and that dude had this vial of San Pedro. I don't know if you heard that.
I haven't yet.
It's a cactus plant.
Mescaline, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so he had it in a tincture kind of thing. And so I took a little bit of that, just like a little bit, you know, I didn't want to do like a ton because I was already on these other things. Right. So what are we at? 4? And so I was on a good level for a while on those 4. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing with this mix, but it's working for me. It's like working out.
Right.
But then as the night like started to like, as the sunset and night came, I was like not crashing, but I was kind of like, you know, I was in a malaise, you know?
Yeah.
And I ended up dancing with this. So there was a scene with a girl that I was dating leading up to the festival,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and we at the festival had already agreed we were just going to be friends, and we were kind of just doing our own thing. And she went her own way and kind of disappeared, and I was left with her friends that she was there with, these two other ladies who were partying, and they had this like thermos of some liquid that they were drinking, and they offered it to me, and I was just like, "What is this?" They were like, "Don't worry about it. Like, just take a
Oh
swig."
my god.
So I take a swig. It's like pure vodka, man. Just
Oh.
and I don't even really drink that much. Like, I'm not a drinker necessarily.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, man, when I drank that swig of vodka, like I think everything activated, everything. Like, and I had a great night, man. Like I met back up with my friends, and I was on cloud nine, man. It was an fucking amazing night, and I was like, man, I got to call this mix something because it worked for me.
Right.
And Captain Planet was born, man.
Well, what I love about it is that like
Nice.
it is literally like from all the different types of hallucinogenic substances on the planet. You go from like, you know, the plant of cannabis to the fungus of the mushrooms and the LSD to the San Pedro cactus to alcohol, like, you know, the yeast and the sugar, right? Like you've got so many different elements of the planet represented in that mix.
Exactly. With cannabis, I feel like, so anybody who's a regular cannabis user, I actually, some people say you should do these things raw. You should raw dog them. But for me, like the entry phase can be a little rough, you know, just uncomfortable physically. And then the come down is a little rough, more emotionally, mentally. And so for me, cannabis is like this sort of like lubricant, you know, for lack of a better word.
It blurs the edges off a little bit.
Totally. Takes the edge off, and you're high, and then you're really high. You know what I mean? So like the transitions are better, you know? So I always recommend it.
All right. All right. Well, maybe one day I'll find myself in this space where I may do a Captain Planet, but it probably won't be for the next 14 years. Once Miles leaves the house. Then...
Exactly. Yeah. Or if you get like your own, you know, vacation or you
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, so that's breaking news because I've never publicly disclosed what is in a Captain Planet.
You've never shared the recipe.
Oh my god.
There's the recipe for the Captain Planet.
Yeah. You know, there are going to be people. So I'm going to show this tomorrow. There are going to be people that are going to be like, "Got it, got it."
Yeah.
Where do you find these things? Just curious.
But you know what's funny is like I have a cut. Obviously, the first cut of this movie was like 2 hours. You know, it was too long.
Yeah.
And there was I had the ingredients for the Captain Planet in there, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to leave that a little vague because I don't want to be held responsible for somebody doing this. And like,
that's good thinking.
Going totally wrong because I didn't take that much of each of the substances. You know what I mean? I didn't go crazy.
Right, sure.
So I don't do this.
And it's not like you put them in a sandwich and we're like,
Exactly. I spaced them out. You know, so you got to be a seasoned vet, I think, to.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm a seasoned vet and I still haven't mixed them yet. Right. So like, you know, if I was to mix them, I would do it exactly in that fashion, right? Spaced out little bits at a time here and there. Let me see what I'm going to get into before I try going like all the way in. And I've gone all the way in on some of the individual ones, but
Yeah. I mean, I think like, I think, you know, I'll be careful how I say this, but I think it's pretty safe bet to mix MDMA with one other thing, because MDMA is the love drug, right? So you're going to feel good, and then you're going to add the psychedelic element. So like hippie flipping, for instance, is doing MDMA with mushroom, right? And so I think adding MDMA to things also has that effect that I was talking about with cannabis, where it kind of lubricates it and makes it fun and stops you from dropping into those holes that you can drop in. But sometimes people are looking to drop into a hole because sometimes people are searching for something. If something's bothering them, you don't want to be lovey-dovey. You want to get deep and you want to do hard work. Some of it is hard
going to take you there.
Yeah. Like ayahuasca, you know? Some of these trips are just supposed to be uncomfortable, you know?
Well, I mean, I guess you could say I've done it in the sense that I've done the DMT, which is the active and hallucinogenic in ayahuasca, but I've never gone through the ayahuasca ceremony. Like, The whole being in a jungle hut, puking and shitting in a bucket around strangers is just not my. I'm too bougie for it. I'm just gonna say it. You know what I mean? Like, I would maybe do it at home with my own person here to do it with me, but I ain't got $5,000. So you know what I mean? I've hit a vape pen with DMT and communed with alien species. So like I've gone some places with it, but yeah, I haven't ever mixed that.
Yeah. One day.
I know we're talking a lot about the documentary, Richard, but there was something I really also wanted to talk about that John mentioned earlier, which was talking about the time frame of this like interview and the experience itself happening 4 years apart. What I had thought also was just like probably one of my favorite aspects of the film is the fact that it takes place in 2016 and 2020 specifically. This felt like a real interesting time capsule that when those years were happening felt formative and important, but I don't know that I like necessarily realized how insane 2016 was. Not just in my own personal, I had a lot of insane stuff going on just in my own personal life. That's when I moved to Colorado, joined the cannabis industry, like really made some like formative changes just in like how I operated day to day, but then also with the election and then that being like the time period, like just before the election is when you guys were at this festival, sort of innocent and like nobody really seeing what's coming, but like kind of actually seeing what's coming, just not realizing that they saw it because you hear it in what they're saying, but they just like didn't put it together. Never thought it inevitable. And the fact that we get to watch it now, so like it's a third time frame, right? Because like the perspective of these two time frames has never left us. And one of the things I've been most interested to see since COVID and since the pandemic is how our culture starts to contextualize COVID and the pandemic and those times and how we start working through it. Right. Cause I haven't seen a ton of content yet that really like contextualizes that time period. But what's interesting is you've got 2016, which is where all of the footage is really happening. You have the, you know, sort of everyone coming together in this time and place that we almost all forget about sometimes. Like, oh yeah, we were all just like hanging out in our parents' basements or in our apartments and like trying to figure out what we could do and who we could talk to.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to see so many people wearing face coverings at the festival in 2016 when they didn't need to, well before anybody thought that they needed to protect, you know, and so like that juxtaposition was so interesting and cool. And then also to be watching it in 2025 where Trump has re-won another election and it's almost like 2016 is happening again. And so like all of these things together made such an interesting viewing experience out of this documentary for me. It felt like a time capsule that allowed me to start like understanding my own experiences that had nothing to do with your experiences. Like some of the interviews that are happening, I started remembering just like, oh shit, when 2020 happened, it was like I signed a lease in Palo Alto for $4,200 a month that started 2 weeks before shutdown happened. And then on April 1st, which was 2 weeks later, I got laid off of my job. And then on April 3rd, I turned 40. And then on April 8th, we found out we were having our kid. It's like boom, 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 you know, and I used a lot of psychedelics and did a lot of meditation to work through the insanity and try to like bring myself back to center. And like, you know, there was just so many different little things that the people said in the interviews during 2020 that I, you know, I wasn't at the festival, but I felt like we were all on the same journey.
Right.
That time capsule connectivity is so important for us to start like really experiencing. So it's so interesting that just like the delay in this movie being seen on streaming now actually gives it like a really relevant time and place because of that distance and the sort of rhyme that we're getting in history right now with Trump coming back into power. More doom and gloom again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Wow. That dude, you literally, what you just said are thoughts that I've had over and over and over again. I really, you were quite the astute viewer, man, because like, those are the exact thoughts that I was having. And I think that everything happens for a reason. This movie took a long time to come out, but once it finally did, I thought this was the perfect timing for it to come out because 2016 was an election year, 2020 was an election year, and now we're back sort of where we started with the beginning of the Trump administration again now. So I've gone through all those same thoughts, you know, the festival represented a point in time at the end of the Obama era where I think all of us felt like everything is perfect now, you know, at like
the end of innocence.
Our collective trauma as a nation has been healed by Obama, right? Everything is good now, you know, but like 2016 was a really hard year for me. After that festival, things went downhill and they kept going downhill. Like I said in the documentary, I had my appendix rupture.
Right.
It was weird how it happened because it started in LA and then I felt it and I was like, ooh, I was looking up my symptoms and it was the worst pain I had been in. I couldn't sleep all night. And I was like, this is probably my appendix, but I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't do anything about it besides stupidly taking CBD oil, you know? But then I went home on a trip to visit my family that they encouraged me to come on last minute, which my sister actually really wanted me to come on. And I went, and then my appendix was on the verge of rupturing while I was on the trip. And that was a nightmare. And then our beloved dog, Rosie, our golden retriever, who had spent a year with me in LA in 2015, I just sent her back home 2 months before that. She was by my side the whole time I was recovering from my appendix rupturing. And then she passed away a week later because I had to extend my trip. And so she literally passed away. So this was like a real reckoning for me at the end of 2016. And then obviously Trump winning was its own reckoning, right? And so 2020 represented, I think, like a full circle moment where we were about to get out of the Trump era. we thought, right? But then we were in the pandemic, right? And now we're back right where we started with Trump. And so I think like in life in general, I think it's important to look back and contextualize things. So journaling is really important. Everyone can journal. Just write down what you're going through, you know, because it's important to look back and think, oh man, like I had no idea what was about to happen. I had no idea really what was going on until later, but you can see what you were feeling. And for us, the film is our journal of that period of time of being not knowing what was coming, joking about Trump and being like, yeah, we love watching him. He's tearing down all these Republicans left and right. Like he's making fun of Ted Cruz. Like, you know, he could never win, but like he's fun to watch, right? That's
entertaining, right?
But then when I'm interviewing them 4 years later, we were reckoning with what that reality actually felt like with him being president. And so I think it's really important to go back and look back at and contextualize things in that time capsule type setting. And I'm so glad that you were able to pick up on those themes and those ideas and think about them in context with your own life, because we were all going on that same journey together. And so people will relate to all those stories. People were getting laid off left and right. And so we all have each one of the avocados, you know, the campers that we were, that I was with at that festival went through a journey that I think anybody who watches the film, you'll be able to relate to one of the 20 of us. One of the 20 of us had a similar journey probably to anyone who watches the film. And so that makes me so happy, man, that you were able to think about your own life in that way and take all those things from it.
I will sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, no, I'm right there with you, Brad, because I mean, to tell you the truth, I was like still in Austin going through a horrible divorce. And Brad and Steph were there. And oh my God, I think that was one of the worst things I ever, you know, went through in my life, because I actually picked this person, you know, and then all this other shit, you know, started happening. I was, you know, doing great in event planning between Austin and Denver, and then it just started going downhill. No more event planning, and then 2 years without it. You know, during the pandemic, it's insane. It made me think about, you know, that progression where I was, and I'm just adding on to, you know, what Brad said.
Yeah, it really changed your whole life.
It did, and y'all saw a lot.
Yeah.
God bless you. God bless you.
You know, it's so insane to think about how much really happened during that time. Like, I think we survived it, like in our own ways, whether we brushed up against the disease or not. I didn't thankfully lose anyone in my family or anyone I cared about to COVID. And I wasn't really like, that wasn't the biggest of my concerns. But I lost my dog 2 weeks before Miles was born, and like didn't get any chance to even process it because like he died, and then like 2 days later my wife's family came to stay with us to help us like arrange furniture and cook meals and stuff. But then like Miles didn't come for like another 2 weeks, so we just had no space to like process like this heavy loss that just occurred to us, that was then like followed up with like all this insane, new experience, new life in our world. And so like just like the amount of enormity that occurred just in my own life and Richard's life and your life and all of the people's lives in this documentary is just so interesting. Yeah. And I feel like we really do, like as a culture, owe it to ourselves to think about how much of that really went down, to not like ignore the trauma or the stress and the anxiety and actually like chronicle it for a moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you're bringing that up because it's something that I shied away from marketing with the film, but it's something now that the film is out that I'm going to speak up on more. And I'm so glad you guys connected with that aspect of the documentary because, we're marketing it as a festival film. Come to the festival with us. Yeah. But, after the first 30 minutes or so, things start getting weird, after, Bernie Sanders shows up, which honestly, I haven't talked about the Bernie Sanders part very much either. And I haven't even ever shown any clips from that part because I just wanted to just like spring up on people. But Bernie is now the leader of the resistance now.
He's currently doing exactly that same shit that he was doing at 2016.
He's doing it right fucking now. And he's still going to Coachella. He's actually showing up now because we joke around in the movie about, it's just a recording. Like he was like, he didn't have the balls to actually show up. Now he's actually fucking going to the festival. So that aspect of it has really been a mind trip because I'm like, whoa, like we're really back, like
there's a lot of rhyme happening right now.
There's a lot of rhyme. Yeah. And as you guys know, like as a filmmaker who completed this film years ago, one of my fears about the film was, is this stuff just going to all seem old? Like, but it's all happening again. And now Bernie is back. And so these things are cyclical, and so that's what documenting things, I think the power in it is showing that progress takes time and that we take steps back to take 2 steps forward. And that's just kind of how life goes, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think we also need to remember that we got through it. Right. We need to continue to remember we got through this, and I know I do, my life has changed. I'm like taking a freaking train and I'm going back to school and I'm trying to help people, one of the classes I'm excited about next year is trauma-informed care to help people with trauma, and to do that. But guys, I don't want to cut this off, but it's almost that time.
Yeah.
John, if you could,
this has been incredible.
If you could leave people with something about the documentary, what you want them to take from it and remember from it.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've touched on a lot of it here. I think there's layers to what I want people to kind of take away from it. I think the first layer is I just want people to like sink into it, vibe out with it, feel like you're at the festival and just have a good time. Have a drink, have a puff, have a good time. But then start to get to know these people and start to get to know their struggles and see how those struggles relate to their struggles. And then if there's anything that they say in the documentary or anything that they do that can help somebody, I think that that's the biggest thing anyone can take away from it, is if it can help them in their daily life. I've heard a lot of feedback now. The premiere was years ago now, so I've heard feedback from people who are like, yeah, I might try mushrooms one day, or I might like go to a festival, or I might like just do something with my friend group that's out of the ordinary, like go somewhere on a trip with like a group of friends where we do something that's outside of our daily life. So for me, what I hope people take away from it is it's not just entertainment. I think that it's a documentary that people can use to integrate into their own lives by, the people that they keep around them, the things that they do that I think can help make their lives more joyful, more introspective, and just a way to get to know themselves better, so that they can live in harmony with themselves and their friends and their communities. So that's what I hope people take away from it.
I love it.
Tell your friends that you love them.
Tell your friends that you love them. That's so important, man. And that's I think that the most that's the last sort of message from the film, I think, is how important it is to say I love you, and share how much you care about people and in your life, because we don't communicate with them enough. I know I don't, and so it is important to say those things.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, guys, thank you so much. Anyway, I adore you both. I'm so happy that we could all sit here and talk about this. Your documentary is just amazing. It's about life. It's about having fun. It's everything. It's about life. It's about having fun. But it's also about, people are going through things, sometimes. And you need to kind of be there for your friends. Because sometimes I don't think people are, or we just get so run down with our lives, we forget about our friends sometime, and then the next thing you know, they're not there. And before that happens, like Brad said, you got to tell them that you love them. I know I don't say it enough. So, and John, if you could tell us where we can find you, where people can find you, so they can reach out to you.
For sure. You can find me on all the socials at John H. Piette on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the movie Lightning in a Bottle of Festival Stories streaming on Amazon Prime and Vimeo worldwide. It's translated into a bunch of languages, so I think your language should be on there, so you should be able to watch it anywhere around the world.
I think that's fantastic. Brad, I know you don't have any social media, but did you want to leave?
I have magic.
I just saw that. I have
magic. That's all I have. No, I mean, look, I do have a website. You can go to bradbogus.com if you want to see what I do. I sometimes throw some musings out on my blog. I'm not very regular with it, but I'm going to start getting more regular with it, and just kind of journaling a bit, right? Like just getting some shit off my mind, because I don't have any place to put it on social media anymore. But yeah, I'm kind of, I'll just one note on mental health. I'm really happy not to be on social media right now. Just there's so fucking much being shoved down our throats right this moment from all directions, and they're run by just horrible people that I found in my life, at the very least, getting back to the struggle with being present, getting off of these things. I have not missed a thing. And we always feel like we will. We always feel like our businesses are going to fall apart, or we can't do this, we can't do that if we're not on social media.
Right.
I personally am loving being the Force Ghost and not being anywhere out there, and not having to scroll through some feeds and get more doom and gloom than I already am aware of shoved down my throat. So I'm just going to be out here spreading the love.
I love it.
Using the magic. And you can follow me on my website.
Oh my goodness. And everyone knows where they can find me. So talk to me, because I like you. Anyway, guys, I hate ending this. I swear to God, one day we all need to meet up for drinks or something, and just I'm afraid we're going to do that.
I'm going to come visit you guys, because my sister, she lives in Northern California, but her job, they're based in Denver. And so she flies there every so often. So next time she goes on a Denver trip, I'm going to try to coordinate it and come see you guys.
Oh, please do.
Awesome.
too.
Yes, because we totally need to see you. Now we're probably going to be up all night. I'm just going to say that. But
I feel like you
fine.
guys found the new Austin, the
That's right.
the old Austin. You found. Yeah.
Yes, it's kind of
Stop
like
telling people that.
Keep it down. I'll keep it down.
yes. Right.
Yeah,
Okay, on that note-
there's already enough Texans moving here.
Yeah, anyway,
As Texans who moved here.
on that
Thank you guys,
note,
man. Thank you so much.
thank you
I really
guys.
appreciate everything you guys said.
Love you, John.
Thank you. Love you, John. Love you, Brad. Talk to you soon.
Love you, Richard.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.